The other day, I was taking a walk, which I know sounds ridiculous because so seldom do I leave the house. I basically only ever, I stay in. I sit here. I spend all day, every day, sitting here, fucking doing this. That's stabbing, by the way. That's a stabbing motion. On my penis, I take a craft knife, I stab my penis. So that when I put it in the oven, it doesn't pop. Like sausages. Sauce and jizz. Sausage. Hello everyone. The other day I was taking a walk. The old, mental health walk. Physical health walk. The get outdoors. Get some fucking air. Actually leave the house every once in a while walk. That's what I was doing. Through the park. One of our local parks here. But before, so there's like a long path, long-ish. There's a path leading toward the park. There's like trees and shit over it. And then just before it opens up into like the larger area of the park proper, there was a lamppost, and on the lamppost a sign had been posted. There was like a police notice saying something along the lines of, there is currently an ongoing murder investigation. Apparently they had found a body in like one of the wooded areas off to the side of the park, of one of the park areas, by they call it a lake, but it's barely a pond. It's a small body of water, and they found a body, and it said that, and then if you have any information, if you saw anyone suspicious in the area this time, this day, whatever, please call this number with any information, if you have any information about the murder that apparently happened. Which was interesting to read about. But I happen to know they won't catch the whoever did the murder because they haven't caught me yet, and they're not fucking gonna. The fuckers, they can try. They can fucking try. But they fucking won't. They're not going to get me. Because I hide the bodies well. I know what I'm doing, see? But sometimes I want them to be found. I make it like an Easter egg hunt. I paint the bodies bright colours, little patterns on and stuff. And then they hunt them down and go, oh, I found one, and they put it in a basket, and then they run along and find another. It's all fun and games. One thing I dislike though about when they do find the bodies is they always call it they refer to it as obviously like sex crimes, sex murders, which is just the only reason they do that is because the bodies, I don't paint them. I don't actually paint them bright colour, that would be silly. But what I do is I draw penises all over them. Because, you got to, every murderer has like their calling card sort of thing, don't they? You got to have like a thing. You got to have a thing. And I draw penises all over the... I draw penises all over the bodies. Penises. It's funny. But I think because of that, because they see penis, they think sex. They think, oh, it's a sex crime. These are sex criminals. No evidence of like the bodies having been used for sex or anything, but they jump to that. They go, oh, penis, sex crime. There's a sex murderer on the loose still. Hasn't been caught yet. Shall not be caught. Shall never be seen in court. Not for that, anyway. For the myriad other things I might be accused of, but not for that. And that annoys me because it's not a sex crime. It's an art. It's an expression of artistic intent. Yeah, the penises. It's a statement. It's an artistic statement. It's not about sex. Nudity isn't, and that's sort of what I'm trying to put across, is that nudity isn't explicitly sexual in nature. That's why all the censorship online and Instagram or whatever is wrong and bad. I said, didn't I? I think it was last week. I was looking at the Frank Frazetta book and there was lots of drawings of boobies. I said, oh, this will get age restricted. It got fucking age restricted before it even officially uploaded. Because I upload it and then you have it as unlisted for a little while, sometimes if you choose to. And then during that time, it will let you know if anything pops up, if it's age restricted, not advertiser friendly, if you said too many cunts, whatever. And during that time, within 20 minutes really, of the video getting processed on YouTube's servers, it got flagged as age restricted. Tried to appeal it, they said no. Even though they say shit with like art, educational, whatever is allowed, which it was. I was showing work. I was talking about the art and the work as art, not as pornography. But no, it's got a boob in it. Oh, that means it's porn. It's bad. I was seeing a girl ages ago now, well, a few years ago now, for a while, and I had drawn her. I had drawn her naked even. And I had uploaded some of those images to Instagram when I could still get away with that. And then we stopped seeing each other and she got with another guy who is now her long-term boyfriend. So good, genuinely good for them. I hope they're happy. But the new boyfriend told her to tell me to remove the pictures of her, the drawings of her, from my Instagram, which in one way is fair enough. But it's the way he worded it, was apparently he said he doesn't want pictures of her on my porn wall, as he called it, like his wall of porn. And it's just like, oh, fuck you, just fucking fuck you. Like, yeah, I'm happy that they have their life together now and they're happy, but fuck you, porn wall, get fuck off. It's not porn at all. It's art. It's just naked body art. It's not fucking. I mean, that's a whole other discussion. But what bugs me the most is when they find the bodies of the people I've murdered, and they call it a sex crime just because of the penis drawings. That's the joke I was making. Ha ha ha! Isn't that funny? Aren't I funny? Aren't I bloody funny? Joking about killing people at a time like this, when there's so much actual murder going on in the world, and I'm sitting here going, haha, yeah, I'm a murderer too. But an artistic one. I'm an autistic murderer. That's me. You want autism, you want artism, I've got it all, barrels full of it, and I'm ready to splooge it all over you, because that's what I do. That's true though about where I was walking to the park and there was a sign posted up saying they had found a body, there's a murder investigation, please call with any information. That part was true. So was the bit about me murdering people and drawing dicks all over their bodies. But the sign bit was true also, as well as me murdering people. Not really, but it might be. But it's not. But it might be. But it's not really. But it might be. But it's not really. I have moved away from that. I for a while I was crafting a persona of, haha, what if I was a serial killer? But I sort of have moved away from that over the years. Maybe I've just matured. Maybe it's just something I'm not, like, you know, you eat the same kind of food too often and it just gets a bit boring and then you look for something else. And maybe that's more, like, the murder thing was fun and funny for a bit, but, like, can't do it forever, you know. Like, I'm looking forward to finishing Gun Viking, because then I can stop worrying about drawing Gun Viking. I love Gun Viking, and I like drawing him, but sometimes I don't want to. You know, sometimes I want something a bit different. And it's the same, like, pretending that I might be a murderer. It's funny. It's fun and all. It's fun and games for a little bit. But, these things... It's like anything. It is... you got to put it to bed at some point. Bury it at some point. Like a body that you've murdered. And drawn penises all over. The thing I like to do is draw so many penises, and then see if they correctly identify how many penises, because I draw them in like places you might not necessarily be able to, or might not think to look to find a drawing of a penis. Is there one in the crevice of the butt? Is there one under the ball sack? Is there one under their tongue? Have I gone that far into it? Have I cut them open, drawn a penis inside their body, and then sewn them back shut? Who knows? I could be doing so much more than talking about fucking wouldn't it be funny if I was a murderer? It wouldn't even be that funny. Again, at this time, with all the shit going on in the world, maybe joking about murder isn't funny because because everything. That was the end of that bit. Let's move on to a new bit. So obviously the next logical step for me is 24-hour podcast episode. That's the obvious... It's obviously the next... Like, that's obviously what I have to do next. I've done 2-hour specials, did a 3-hour special. Did I? Yeah. Did a 12-hour, did 5.5 hour. It would have made more sense to like get them bigger and bigger and bigger as I went, but I didn't. But it just worked out that way. It's fine. It's fine. Shut up. It's fine. But I think the next logical step is 12-hour podcast that nobody is asking for. Nobody would demand of me. But as an autistic person, a creator of things, I feel compelled to think, what's next? What's the next obvious... Not the next obvious thing, but what's next? And then the obvious thing is 24-hour podcast. And maybe I shouldn't do it because it might be that it's too obvious and I should try to do something different. But clearly the next step is 24-hour podcast episode. I was thinking, like, when would be, like, episode 300 was a big deal. Episode 333, I made a big deal. And I think the next sort of big logical one would be, maybe not 400, because 400 is like, whatever. I was thinking sort of half on my own and half with input from somebody else. It would be good / fun / funny for episode like 444 to do it 4 minutes and 44 seconds. I spoke about that before. I might have spoke about that before. Anyway, I think the next logical one is episode 500, 24-hour episode. Just needless, absolutely unnecessary to the greatest of extents. Just why? Just fucking why would you even? I think if I did do a 24-hour... Sorry, I think when I do a 24-hour podcast episode, I'll try to do it something with it a bit different. Because the 12-hour and then the 5.5 hour, which people seem to be enjoying, so I'm glad for that. They've both just been just the same as the usual podcast, but longer. So I think I might try to do something. I do have ideas. I thought I could try to do like a day in the life as a podcast, 24 hours. Obviously, it wouldn't be recorded 24 hours in real time. I'd have to record it in segments. So the idea of it being a day in the life would be fake and be a facade. But, it's all... It's all part of the theatrics of it, innit? We don't mind that because it's you accept the premise and then you see where it goes, regardless of, you know, if it's like if I said this is a 24-hour podcast episode and it was all filmed from start to finish as in one long 24-hour thing, but then it clearly was edited, shot at different times and edited together, that would be lying. But if I said up front it's a 24-hour episode, 24 hours like day in the life, but obviously not filmed consecutively, it's filmed in portions and then stitched together because that's just what I have the capabilities to do, then the fact that it's not actually a full 24-hour day in the life, you accept that and you go, okay, he's doing a thing, that's fine. There's a difference between being like actively dishonest and then being like creating something with a lie in it. And that's what I do. I create things with lies in it, but you get it. Do you know the Flaming Lips? The band, the Flaming Lips? They've been one of my favourite bands since, like, when I first heard them at college. I think it was the song... I don't know what the name of the song is. I know it as Vaseline, but I don't think that's the name of the song. She uses Vaseline. You know, that one. Yeah, I love them. They're Wayne Coyne, is that his name? The lead singer. He's an artist. They're a very artistic, very creative band. They do a lot of very creative work. They're very creative with how they make their music, not just with the music they make and like the content and, you know, style of whatever. It's how they make the music is often very creative. How they put the music out there is often very creative. I can't remember the exact dates of when they did this specifically, but I have them on my laptop computer. They did a 6-hour song. I believe that was I Found a Star on the Ground. And then they did a 24-hour song, which is, you know, it's large parts of it are like long periods of like a sort of somewhat repeating piece of music that sort of goes into the next bit of repeating music with lyrics here and there. And it's more like, you know, it's a musical experience more than just a song. But it's good. I think the 6-hour one came, if you purchased the package, I think it came with like a disc and whatever. It also had like a strobe light thing and a thing to make like light effects you could look at as you listen to the song. Obviously the idea being you take drugs and listen to the music and look at the shapes and lights and colours, and it's a whole thing. And I think that's similar with the 24-hour song. It's like an elongated thing. I don't know if it still is a thing, but I believe at one point it was streaming perpetually online over a 24-hour period, and then, you know, repeats. Seven Skies H3, I believe, is what it's called. Spotify. I can't find it. It might still be up, it might not, but it's on YouTube and stuff probably. The song itself is good. You know, it's psychedelic rock stuff, slow moments, more hyper upbeat moments. It has phases to it. And there's been multiple times where I've had that on while painting, drawing, whatever, because it's a good, like... The streaming one is good as well, because especially if you draw and paint at different times of the day, whenever you drop in to hear the song streaming online, it's going to be at a different point, and it will be different periods of music for periods of time. And when they released that, as you could purchase... I think the 6-hour one, they did a few different versions of some of their songs. Did they do a 1 hour and then a 6 hour and then a 24 hour? But they released some of them like on a thumb drive within like a gummy like baby, and some within a gummy brain that you could actually like eat the gummy and then take the thumb drive and listen to the music. But the 24-hour one, they had, I think, real human skulls, and then there was like inside the skull they put the drive with the song on it, with a cable, a USB cable coming out of it, so you could plug the skull into like your computer or whatever and then listen to the song via the skull, which is pretty fucking cool if you ask me. It's a bit out there. It would be easy to look at that and go like, oh, it's a bit trying to be edgy. You know, they're obviously but they're artists, and it's a neat idea. I think it's cool. Now, I will say, you know, I'm very honest. If I'm going to copy someone's work, I'm very upfront about the fact that I'm copying someone's work. I don't believe the Flaming Lips, having done those extra long songs, had any direct impact on my idea to do a 12-hour podcast and to now do a 24-hour podcast. But I'm just mentioning that because it may have been in my head somewhere that they had done it, and I thought, oh, I'll do that too, but with the art that I do. But also, it's just a similar thing that I can talk about, and now that's out there. If you didn't already know that, that's a thing that you know now. Flaming Lips, they're very good, and they did a 24-hour thing, and I'm obviously stealing their idea and doing it in 24 hours. But I'm not saying I am doing that. I'm just saying that feels like the next logical step in my podcast journey, if you can call it such, to do a 24-hour episode. Because otherwise, what's next? Like, I've done basically 6 hours. I've done 12 hours. I did do, I didn't film the entire thing, but I did do, I made an entire comic in 24 hours. I spent, and that was 24 hours straight, start to finish. I think it was 9 or 10 a.m. on my birthday, and then I went to 9 or 10 a.m. the next day, just making 1 page an hour for every hour of the day. 24 pages, made a comic. It was Gun Viking, that guy. So, you know, the idea of doing a 24-hour something isn't too outrageous, too out of the ordinary, too different from things I have done, but fucking let's. This is another instance of, I have this book, this colossal, gargantuan, big fragging compendium book of Lobo comic, and I've looked through it a couple of times, and like, I see it on my shelf, and just the fact that I have it, I just think like I should look through that more because I have it. Like, what, you know. So I'm gonna. There's one particular one I want to look at specifically, but I'll have a quick flick through just because. Gotta love some Bisley. I mean, fucking this shit. When I looked at what was it, Maximum Force, during the 5.5 hour episode I did, that was like about as peak Bisley as you can get in terms of his comic book artwork. And his Lobo stuff is also peak Bisley comic book interior artwork. That fucking gorilla, man, just that pose on that with the arms and the legs and the fucking penguins. The fucking penguins. Oh, this is the Christmas paramilitary special. Fucking look at that. Look at that fucking Lobo, man. Ain't no one drawing shit like this nowadays. I mean, some people draw cool shit, but like, just I don't know what's going on with the colouring on this bit. Like here, I get it. It's like black and white and it's spraying. Maybe it's just difficult to colour that digitally or otherwise. But then here, there's just a block of like colour missing. I don't know. You really cannot beat Bisley. Just really was one of a kind. And the issue, of course, is if you have someone that can kind of hit Bisley's level, it's easy to look at them and go like, oh, they're trying to be Simon Bisley. And there are artists who are in some ways like technically better. I mean, there's probably a lot of artists that are technically better than Simon Bisley, but it's just the energy, the attitude. There's like stuff that Simon Bisley did that is just not even outrageous, but it was just very, very cool that there was an artist like Bisley. I was speaking about him as if he's dead. He's still going. He just doesn't, you know. And he's still, he does good work today. I'm not going to say, oh, he's shit now. But, you know, the stuff he was doing in the 90s is just unbeatable. Even just that as a comic book panel is just so, just looks so fucking cool. And I don't even really care about Lobo, like as a character, as a comic, the story, whatever. I don't really, like, I get it, but it doesn't hugely interest me. But being such an obsessive fan of Simon Bisley's artwork, I love Lobo because of that. Which is why when I see other artists doing Lobo, that was fucking weird. I'm a bit like, But then in here there are a bunch of other good Lobo comics. Vis-a-vis the artwork is good. And there's some that are just like, you know, like it's good, it's completely fine, good comic book art, but it's not what I'm here for, it's not what I'm looking for. It's not Simon Bisley's Lobo, you know? Can't out-biz the biz. Literally. It's just fucking cool. So there was a period where like where that's all I'm thinking about now. My head is now, because of having done that little period bit, all I'm thinking is like, haha, ovulating babies, fucking. There was a moment in time. See, I've always got another word for things. See, whenever I say like, oh, I came across this piece of artwork, and then I stop and go, I fucking jizzed all over it. And then I can say, I happened upon, I happened to find. There's always another word. You can always not make shit dirty. Until you start using the word like happening instead of coming, and then you say like, I'm gonna happen. Oh no, I happened all over my desk. I mean, you could say like, that's silly. Why would anyone ever say that? But like, come to come is a weird. I know it's spelled differently, but like you say, I came. How is that any weirder than? How is that not weirder than if you were to say, oh no, I'm happening. I'm happening everywhere. I came. Did you? Have you just arrived now? You're late. Fucking keep an eye on your watch, you idiot. There was a moment in time where I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to make Spider-Man comics specifically. This was years and years and years ago, when I was basically a child. I think I played the Neversoft Spider-Man game on PlayStation, and I was like, fucking Spider-Man, yes, fucking yes. And pretty much from that moment on, I wanted to be a Spider-Man comic book artist. But then I realised the level of discipline you have to make Spider-Man comics, Marvel level comics. The ability to like stay consistent with your artwork, and it has to be a certain level, and then the wanting to the amount that I wanted to be a Spider-Man comic book artist just sort of dropped and dropped and dropped when I realised like the rules in place for becoming, you know, a sort of at least mid to top tier comic book artist that does Spider-Man is like too stringent, not artistic enough. It's artistic, but you know, it's everything has to be a certain way. You've got to have like the house style or a style that at least fits in with like the Marvel house style or whatever. And at that point, I sort of almost stopped wanting to be a comic book artist at all, because I was like, well, why do I want to spend all my time desperately trying to be perfect enough that I can be a comic book artist that draws Spider-Man for a living? Like, that's just, it's outside of... I shouldn't show these, should I? This video will get fucking age restricted and shit. But I think it was Glenn Fabry and Simon Bisley. Those two, I saw their comics, the hand-painted comics, even the inked comics, and that sort of reignited my love. I think that was around the time I came up with Gun Viking, and I was like, I could do comics. If I can make comics like this, that feel more natural to make, it feels more free, I can have more like artistic input into it, then I can make fucking comics. And it's when you see like Simon Bisley, I had my finger in this page just because of this. It's just so fucking good. Some kind of religious figure. I don't even know. I've never read the comic, but just fucking damn. How fucking cool that is. Oh, he's so good. He's got nails in his hands like the Jesus. Yes, Simon Bisley doing what Simon Bisley does really did make me realise, like, you can just make comics. And now, even more so, you see the amount of comics that exist out there, especially in, like, independent circles, that people just make. You can just make comics. And I think that's fucking fantastic. And I'm glad that I had that realisation, that you don't have to just make comics that fit in with Marvel house style. You can do literally whatever and call it a comic. It doesn't even fucking matter. I think this is the one I wanted to look at. I forget the name of the artist. Sleazy Giffen. I don't think that's his actual name. Keith Giffen. Is that the guy? Keith Giffen. I remember really liking, being surprised by this artwork and how much I like it. Oh, that's crazy. There's a girl I went to college with who we weren't close or anything, and then we randomly spoke again a few years ago, and then we don't really talk anymore. Just every now and again we say, hey, what's up? She looks like this now, basically. Like she wanted to get in shape, and then she just carried on going, and now she enters like actual bodybuilding contests, and she looks like that, which is kind of crazy. Not crazy that a person could look like that, but like, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I was surprised by how much I liked this, because I thought I'd buy this book, get all the Simon Bisley comics and whatever, and maybe some other stuff. I know there's the Martin Edmund, whatever, the Lobo Cop, and the other one. But there's a few other good ones in here. Well, a few others that I particularly like. There's a lot of good ones, but There's a few that I saw, like this one, Keith Giffen, that I looked at and was genuinely surprised by. I hadn't seen before, and I saw them and I went, oh, that's cool, that's different. And it is very, very different. And very interesting. Lots of interesting lines, interesting panel compositions and layouts and shit. Some good gory details. The wrestling scene at the beginning might be one of my favourites, actually. Like, just the way the bodies are drawn. I love the line work. I love the exaggerated nature. That's a fantastic Lobo's back. And it fits the Lobo's back. That was the thing. And that's a really good, solid fucking Lobo. All the extra little details, little strings and straps, and the hook hanging from his wrist and everything. Little bandages and stuff. It's just, yeah, really, really good, fun drawing. It looks like a fun drawing. It looks like that would be a fun drawing to draw. And I really like that. I like this arm. It's a good arm. Good Lobo in general, really. And yeah, this whole opening wrestling scene is very, very cool. The bloodied, torn up face. Good fun comics, and that's what comics should be. Like anything, if any time you are drawing to like deadlines and to scripts and stuff, there's going to be an amount of amount of it feeling like work, it feeling like a job, like you have to just sit down and do it. And there's a lot of that, of course, but if that's all it is, then what's the point? If you can't sit down and like enjoy drawing a comic, then why bother? Really, why bother? Because to draw a full comic as well is a lot of work. Even like one 20-page comic is a lot of work to make that shit from start to finish. So if you're not going to enjoy any of it, then, I mean, we all have to do jobs we don't want to do, sure, but something like comic book art, it should just be a fun fucking laugh riot for at least 66 to 75% of the time. And if you can get more than that, then even better. But even when I'm making like Gun Viking comics, which should be absolute fun and nothing else from start to finish, even then there are periods in those comics where I'm just like, oh, just fucking get it finished. Either it's like getting through the story elements where I just have to connect the dots and I have to draw people talking and I have to draw environments I don't really care about. Or if it's when it comes to the painting, if I just have to paint panel after panel of, similar backgrounds or whatever, it's just like, but large parts of it are fun, and I know the final outcome is going to be an enjoyable thing to have and to have made. And that's an important part of it also. I don't even have much to say about the artwork because it's cool, it's fun. Big gun. I like big gun. I mean, I've spoken about guns, but if you're going to draw them fucking big and cartoony and whatever. There's a little Lobo there and this big fucking... Really, really interesting panel here. He's obviously used white ink or Tipex or something over black ink to get all these lines within the lines. And then that being coloured makes for a very, very interesting effect that you don't normally see in a lot of comics. Oh, is this Lobo in his his estranged daughter or something. It's really cool where they're both just going at each other. The shells, just the ground coated in shells. And this is where it gets a little bit like tricky, because the line work is so odd and creative and interesting looking, but it does get to the point of like you have to take a moment to figure out what you're actually looking at. Because I mean, you know, he's stood in front of his daughter and they're shooting each other, so you know that's what this is. But you're like, oh, that's her arm and back and these legs, I guess. So that's okay, yeah. And then you see it and you get it. But there's a lot of lines, there's a lot of information, and like, you know, sometimes the obvious thing is to use an exceptionally bold outline on the main shapes and then have all the details done with thinner lines, and that lets you sort of differentiate. Whereas here it's almost all the same line weight here and there. It's varied, but like it's still very similar within the piece. But then that's the thing in like all art anywhere, especially comic book art, where there's so many lines in such small spaces going on at any given time. I do wonder about that sometimes, actually being a colorist. Like if you color the comics for a living, there's got to be moments where you're just looking at like an insanely detailed panel, just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, where do I apply color here? Which bit is what? What the fuck am I looking at? I assume, you know, you call up the artist if you have any, or, you know, the penciler / inker, if you have any questions about it. But I do wonder if that happens, if that's like a thing where colorists just look at pages and just go, what the fuck is happening? But then you get the opposite, where I've shown, certainly in certain, I think some Sam Keith comics and some Image comics especially, where there's so little information that like the colorist is left to do. There's like a character here and a character there and nothing else. And then it's up to the colorist to like fill in the background with something. Where it's just like, there's got to be a good like medium ground somewhere. Glenn Fabry cover, 93. Always a fucking treat. Oh, I've got an idea for an upcoming video. Maybe a separate video, maybe a podcast episode, specifically with Glenn Fabry in mind. So that could be fun. Yeah, love a Glenn Fabry cover. They're never not good. Well, yeah, just... And I mean, I don't even need to say why Glenn Fabry was my first, like... Because Simon Bisley is the obvious one, and I've spoken about it many times, but Glenn Fabry was the first one that I noticed was just something else in terms of, like, he paints like this and he makes comics, and it's just like, what? What the fuck? And realising... Because I think when I was younger, before I became sort of aware of shit, I might not have even known this was a painting. I might have assumed it was a digital creation or something. But the fact that like you can paint stuff like this, and then learning how to paint, and then realising like, shit, if I take the time, I could paint like this. Which is crazy to think. Maybe not quite. You know, I'm not saying I can easily paint like Glenn Fabry. I can't, but probably get pretty close. Maybe I should do that. I'm surprised I haven't actually. I've done a good few Bisley copies, and then I was talking about doing a Frazetta copy. Maybe I should do a Fabry copy. You would have thought I would have by now, for him being like my first proper, like, enlightening moment. I guess we'll fucking see. So anyway, the police are all uncultured cockheads that wouldn't know a work of art if it was drawn all over a dead body that they just discovered. Do you know what I miss? Back in the day, maybe around 2013, 2014, I wasn't really in a position to be able to pay for like a .com website. I wasn't employed. I didn't have money. How the fuck am I going to pay for some shit like that? So I had one of these like ewan.t138.net websites, like, you know, where you make a website and they give you a URL and you just sort of have to deal with it or pay for a better one. But one thing I was really happy with at the time was my homepage. I had a drawing of a zombie as like the main image that you first see when you go onto the website back then. And because of that, I titled the homepage "Eat the Flesh of the Living." I think I had the text of that like hand drawn. It said "Eat the Flesh of the Living." So I titled the homepage "Eat the Flesh of the Living." You know, zombies, art, eat the flesh of the living. It fits. I liked it. I thought it was neat. But what that did was, in Google search results, if you searched the phrase "eat the flesh of the living," after a little while, my website was the very first result that popped up. And I was like, anytime I was at any computer with the internet anywhere, around the time I was doing a lot of youth art workshops, like, you know, running them with other people. And a lot of these were done, some of the evening ones were done in this cafe that had, it wasn't an internet cafe, but they had several computers because the people that had bought the cafe also owned the computer repair shop next door. So they figured computers, coffee, let's thing the thing. So whenever I was in there, one of the first things I do is go onto one of the computers, onto the internet, Google "eat the flesh of the living" just to check. Because, you know, I can Google it on my home computer, but it's going to show different results, isn't it? Based on my own searches, my own website and whatever. So I wanted to check on other computers, and so I did. And for a long period of time, if you Googled "eat the flesh," why aren't I doing that right now? Let's just see. It's probably Bible stuff. Eat the flesh of the living. Because I remember, other than my own website, it would be loads of Bible stuff about eating the flesh of the living God or whatever. Some shit like that, you know, some nonsense about God and Jesus. Those bummers. Whereas now you've got Reddit, Bible Hub, Bible Gateway, and yeah, it's all Bible stuff, which is whatever. But for a period of time, for a good few years, if you Googled "eat the flesh of the living," my website was the #1 result, which I was pretty proud of, because that's, you know, for that as well, because zombies are a thing, and the phrase "eat the flesh of the living" isn't, I don't think it's directly said necessarily in any popular zombie fiction. It might be, I forget. But I figured, like, there's got to be some film quote that would come up if you Google that, or a game or something. But no, I had the #1 search result for "eat the flesh of the living," and I miss that. I don't know if I could get that again. I don't know if I care enough. I don't draw zombies a lot these days, so it's like it's not incredibly relevant to my artistic practices currently. So it's not outrageous. It's not, it's not something I'm terribly upset that I don't have currently, but it's just a thing, I thought I had. And so I'm spewing that at you now. Have you seen True Detective? When was that? That was quite a few years ago now, wasn't it? True Detective Season 1. My internet's going nice and quick today. That's a nice change. 2014. God, around that same time. Jesus. I didn't realise it was that long ago. That's fucking 12 years old. Almost. 12, 14? 12. I don't know numbers. Shut up. True Detective, Season 1. This is that. It's Reggie Ledoux. There's the bit where it's at the end of the episode. The end of episode 2 or 3 or something, and it says something about monsters. I think I've got the quote up where I've got pictures that I'm using as reference. Something. Then, like a lot of dreams, it had a monster at the end of it, and then this guy walks into frame, somewhat in the distance, and he turns his head, and then it freeze frames on him, and then fades out to end the episode. And that's like, if you were around when that was first airing, people were like, whoa, holy shit. Because like in the context of the show and everything, it's a pretty like, whew, like it's a creepy fucking thing to suddenly see on screen. This guy in his underwear and a gas mask, carrying a machete, just walking in the woods like fucking Bigfoot. With that quote from the character Rust. Then, like a lot of dreams, it had a monster at the end of it. And I guess he's the monster at the end. Then he wasn't actually... Well, he was a monster in terms of his activities, what he spent his time doing. And I'm not just talking about him making drugs. Ugh, he was up to some shit. But yeah, I've been wanting to draw the awful, horrible man. Can't you draw anything nice? Draw like a nice landscape or some flowers or something. No, I don't think I'll do that. I think I'll draw horrible, horrible people. Of course, he's only a character. Everyone loves a villain, don't they, eh? We all love a villain. I don't know if I've got a recording of it. I might have it. It might be on an old podcast episode. But for a while, I was saying they need to make films about comic book villains. Because all the films about fucking Iron Man and the Hulk are whatever. They're boring as fuck. They need to make movies about villains. And then, I don't know how much long later, then Venom came out. Then the Joker. There might be others, I don't really know. I stopped caring. Morbius. Oh, that was fun, wasn't it? Oh, I never saw it, but from what I hear, it wasn't all it could have been. Evidently, someone somewhere did twig that, like, oh, people like villains. We should make films about villains. But, of course, they did that because of money, not because of artistic integrity or interesting stories or premises or anything. They thought, hey, if we make a story about a villain, people might pay money to see it. Let's try that. And they tried it, and it was shit. Largely. There are, some elements that are okay, but it's largely shit. So look at that. I predicted the something, I don't know what the fuck I'm even talking about now. I thought I had other things to talk about. Have you seen True Detective Season 1? It's got all the devil nets. I made a load of them. They're hanging up in my room currently as I talk, and they look like this. They're all tied with string and shit. They hang up these wooden stick things. And there's because season 1 was really, really, really fucking good. And in contrast to that, season 2 fucking sucked an ass. And I never bothered with season 3. I think there might be more than that as well. I don't know, because I just in my head I just keep it at season 1. Season 1 is a near perfect series of a television show. Just the vibe of it. I mean, how it was made, the acting, editing, music, yada 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 yada, the art direction, all this fucking shit. Really good. Just such like, I don't know. I hate to keep using the word vibe, but it had such a vibe to it. Like it felt kind of odd and mysterious and dirty. And like scary and intriguing, and there was elements that like everyone online, or a lot of people online, were speculating that it was actually going to be like something supernatural, because it was talking about, you know, the Yellow King and Carcosa, and that's like old cosmic horror stories and stuff that exist. They were written, so everyone thought it was going to go that way, and I think I was maybe among them, where I thought I was maybe a little bit disappointed that it wasn't. But at the same time, the fact that it was just people being absolute monsters, I think that's probably the best way to go. And there was a lot of cult stuff, which always interests me, sometimes for the wrong reasons maybe, but yeah, it just had such a feeling, such a vibe. It was just really good. It was just really good, and the rest of it wasn't. But yeah, season 1, I rewatched it recently, and I really it's just good. I really like it. I think it's good. And so I like this image of this guy, so I've been meaning to draw it for quite a while. I might do a painting of it. It's got a lot of trees and shit in the background and the foreground, and I have an odd, not an affinity for drawing and painting trees and shit. Painting rather than drawing. But it can be fun now and then to paint some fucking foliage. I've spoken about that in previous times. So it could be a cool, fun painting to do. Could be. Could not. Only way to know is to just fucking do it, eh? You never know until you try. You tried and you failed. The lesson is never try. Good old Homer Simpson. Which I think I was about to say something along the lines of, I take that quote seriously. A quote from Homer Simpson in the cartoon that's fucking over 30 years old. There's actually solid life advice. But actually, in more recent years, I've found that if I do try... No, do try. Actually try. If you have an idea for something, try it. Even if that idea is murder, go out and try it. You might fail. You might get arrested and put in prison for a long time. But at least you can say you fucking tried some shit. You took that step, that chance. A lot of people don't take. A lot of people spend their lives saying, you know, it would be cool to try this, or I wish I would have tried that. And then, you know, they die with all these regrets. And I don't care about dying with regrets. I'm going to die with a million, billion, squillion regrets. That's just is what it is. So I don't really care about dying with regrets. But I'd like to be able to say, well, I tried. You know, I tried this, I tried that. But for me, almost all of that trying is just like, I tried drawing a thing, and that was me trying. That's the only thing I ever tried, was just drawing a thing. And then I tried drawing another thing, and then a different thing, and then something else. And even then, it's rarely anything that's too outside of what I'd normally draw anyway. Like this. Like, oh, I'll try drawing that guy from that show, which is just a guy in a gas mask with a big knife. Like, yeah, I mean, there's any other day I could draw something like that. It's really not too outrageous. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. This is an episode about nothing, by the way. It's one of those episodes, and deal with it.